Hello and good evening. Welcome to the Tunnel Podcast as we look back to England's opener against Serbia and obviously ahead as well into the game against Denmark on Thursday night. Delighted to say I'm joined, as always, by our resident England man, Tom Goffe. Tom, how are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, bud.
And listen, a special guest tonight. We're joined by Martin Sanders, who you may recognise from TikTok and Sky Sports News. You're watching that earlier on as well. Martin, delighted to have you on. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me. Got my England shirt on, wearing it with pride at the moment until we get knocked out. But yeah, wearing my England shirt.
We will come to that, don't you worry. Okay, yeah, listen, it feels like a long time ago. It was at the weekend, but England kicked off the campaign, Tom, against Serbia. What was your sort of overriding thoughts coming away for the game?
Yeah, just before I came on with you guys, I did a bit of a recap and watched the highlights again. And I genuinely don't believe it was as bad as, the vast majority of the press are making it out to be. I think in terms of, first group game against tricky opposition, I think it was very much a case of job done. And I wasn't as disappointed, I guess, and upset at the performance that, a good proportion of the England fans seem to be afterwards. So, it's a bit of an odd one. Obviously, I'm pleased that we got the win, but on the flip side, a little bit disappointed at all the kind of negativity that has come about, since the final whistle. So, it's quite odd, I find it,
Martin, has Tom got a point there? I listened to Phil Foden. England have been doing some great stuff actually in between the games, and they had Phil Foden in the diary room, and he was sort of saying that he kind of felt that first game was always going to be the toughest game, in the sense that you just need to get off to that good start. Is that something you go along with, or did you see it slightly different? Oh, we've lost Martin. Bit of an issue with his mic. Tom, I'll put that one to you then, because I say Phil was just saying it's the most important game. You've got to just get in there and get off to a good start.
Absolutely, look, it wasn't the best performance from England. We're going to delve a bit deeper into the performance itself, but it wasn't the best performance from England. But I just think it's absolutely vital, that you get off to a winning start. It just sets you up so well, doesn't it, for the remainder of those group matches. You're looking for just one more win then, aren't you, from the next two fixtures? So that was the target, that was the aim, to get the win, against a tricky Serbia team. This is the other thing I think has kind of upset me a little bit, frustrated me more than anything, is that the way some of the press and some of the pundits and commentators afterwards, they were making out as though Serbia were like these kind of nobodies, these minnows that we were going up against. Whereas, they've got some quality players in that team. You look at some of the guys who started, Vlahovic, Mitrovic, Savic. They've got some star players. Guys with top European experience. And I remember when they made some substitutions as well. They brought on Tadic and what's the lad who played for Real Madrid for a period of time, Jovic. So, they were bringing quality off the bench as well. And I just think that wasn't said enough, that, we were playing a decent team, decent European outfit who've got a lot of experience. And, they were going to pose a tricky test. That's what played out. Serbia, they started slowly. Obviously we scored the opening goal, but then after that, they started to attack us a bit more, come forward a bit more energy and a bit more threat. And they showed the quality that they have. So, like Foden said, the job was to get 3 points. First and foremost, get off to a winning start against a tricky opposition, and we did that. So this is what I'm what I was saying at the start, is that all the negativity afterward, I just find it a bit disappointing, really. I'm surprised at it.
Martin, is that you compare the 1-0 win for England to the 1-0 win for France the other night. There seems to be sort of a slight slant in terms of England's wasn't as favourable and France's was more favourable. Is that something you'd go along with, or how did you see it pan out?
And to be fair, I thought England played really well for the first 45 minutes. I thought Bellingham was unbelievable in midfield. I thought he was absolutely outstanding. It was as good as I've seen him in an England shirt. I thought he would. They were really fluid. They played really well. They're a little bit lopsided because of not playing with a recognised left back or anyone down the left side. I'll kind of come on to that in a minute. But I thought Gahey played really well at centre back. He settled in. First tournament. It was his tournament debut. And he looked really composed next to John Stones. And a lot of people criticise John Stones, but I still think he's a really good player. He's experienced at this level. And he's so vital for us. I just think it's just getting the midfield balance right and sort of the left side balance right. But I thought the first 45 minutes we were good. We traditionally don't start tournaments that well. I didn't expect us to go and smash Serbia at the weekend. I just didn't see that from the outset. But to walk away with the result they walked away with, I think we should be really happy. The press are gagging to bash us a bit, and I think I also believe that they're ready for Bellingham as well. Like he's a fiery character. There will be no doubt that somewhere along the line he could easily get sent off. Something could happen with him. I just feel they're kind of ready. They're ready for anybody at the moment. They jumped on Foden's back like unbelievably quickly. Same with Trent. The press are quite unbelievable at times.
We'll come on to individual performances in a moment. As you say, the media do like to build them up and then knock them down. Tom, comment in from Steve Quinn just saying, win aside, did Southgate pick the correct team?
Yeah, well, I think we were chatting on WhatsApp beforehand, weren't we, when the team was announced? And I personally, in terms of the players that were available to him, I think he went with the right starting 11. I know there was a lot of debate and question marks as to whether Alexander-Arnold should have been starting in midfield. I think that was the only one for me where there was a bit of risk involved, perhaps, as to whether, he's obviously played in some of the friendly matches, but, going into a tournament, high stakes, as to whether it was right to give him a start. But I like, in some of the pods previously, I was pushing for Trent Alexander to get a start, because I just felt that the way Serbia started, which was quite defensive, wasn't it? They had everyone behind the ball and they were trying to make things difficult for England. We had a lot of possession. His passing ability would, be good to, try and break a team down who sets up like that. So I was happy with the starting 11. And like Martin said, I thought the first 45 minutes we played really well. It was just in the second half, wasn't it, when Serbia kind of started to come at us a little bit more. They got a little bit braver, didn't they, coming forward in attack. Some of those guys are named, some of their star players started to come into the mix a little bit more. A bit of pressure then, wasn't there? But we held on to that win. And the thing, like I said, I watched the highlights again just before I come on, and Pickford only made one save. He only made one save.
A vital one at that.
It was a good save, but it was a long range effort, wasn't it? A great effort from Vlahovic, I think it was. That's what we limited to. That's what we limited them to. They had a lot of possession in the second half, but collectively that was the defense played really well, I thought. But in front of them also, we nullified them really. So yeah, I was happy with the team. But yeah, there's a few question marks now, isn't there, as to whether he's going to be making changes for the next one or not.
Martin, interesting because Tom touches on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, he came for a bit of criticism after the game. I kind of felt that Gareth backed him in the sense that he said, look, he was really disciplined when Bellingham goes forward. There's a lot of space. He's got to cover that. And whoever had played in that role, whether it was him or Gallagher, it was going to be a rather inexperienced player in that position.
Yeah, it was always going to be an inexperienced player. I don't think he had a horrific game. He done some things really well, and he gave away possession a couple of times a little bit sloppy. I still think Trent's a really, his range of passing is just probably superior to Gallagher's. I think Gallagher will sit and be a bit more disciplined at times, but I still think Trent's passing is tremendous at times. And there's so much pressure on him. I feel the press have built him up a lot. I think the fans are expecting a lot of him. He's always spoke about that, and we're always, as a nation, looking for a scapegoat. In a bad performance, even at club level, there's always somebody that becomes a bit of a scapegoat. And he is almost the scapegoat at times. That's how it feels to me. I may be wrong. I don't know what you two think about that.
No, I think as well, he's been used at club level. I think maybe the club he plays for doesn't help too much, in terms of being made a scapegoat. Liverpool players are ordinarily picked out as well. So, Tom, just to come back full circle on Jude Bellingham, he's obviously got all the plaudits and all the headlines. You look at some of the stats. I think he had 92 touches in the game, 96% pass completion. He obviously scores the goal as well. He was really feisty as well. You saw him getting into one or two bits and pieces with the Serbs. Is that something he needs to build on? He seems like a real leader.
Yeah, I lost for words. I just cannot believe that the guy's not long turned 20 years of age. Since he, to be fair, since he moved to Borussia Dortmund, I've only really seen him play, in the Champions League. So, I've not been seeing how he's been performing week in, week out in the Bundesliga and obviously La Liga last season for Real Madrid. But, I've obviously seen all the hype around him and all the talk. So I've just been looking forward to seeing how he performs. Obviously watched the friendly matches, but he was getting a bit of a rest, wasn't he, because of playing in Champions League final with Real Madrid. So I've been really excited to, see him pull on the England jersey and see how he performs in this tournament. And first game in, he just blew me away. Like I said, I just cannot believe he's 20 years of age. And like you said, the thing that impressed me the most in the game against Serbia was just like you said, that kind of leadership kind of, he was just, trying to get everyone hyped up, wasn't he? And like you said, he was kind of getting in the faces of some of the Serbia players, and he was just everywhere, wasn't he? Getting stuck in, some, crunching tackles, and obviously he got the winning goal as well. Fantastic performance. And like I said, I just lost for words. Can't believe he's 20. I honestly cannot. He just looks so much older than how he plays than his years. So fantastic.
It's a great start for him, absolutely. In stark contrast, Martin, to Phil Foden, who I thought was really, I don't want to say poor, but he was not his usual self. You see what he does week in, week out under Pep Guardiola. This game, I don't think he had any shots. He didn't complete any dribbles. He looked almost invisible at times. Is that because the balance of the side is not right, or is Gareth just not playing him correctly? How do you see that for Phil? Because if he can get the best out of him, he's a weapon.
Yeah, he is a weapon. On his day, you see what he's done for Man City this last season. He's been he's been tremendous at times. So I've seen him tear some of the best defenses apart on his own. He's even in the Champions League when I've seen him play. Once he's on the ball, he's one of those players, a bit like Bellingham. He's prepared to take the ball anywhere on the pitch, and you just take it. And his touch is so good, he can turn and get away from people. I think you need to find a way to get him in this side. He really struggled the other night. I wonder if it's a system just doesn't quite suit him at the moment, sort of coming in off that left side. I think without a left back, it's balancing the side out where you can put him in a position that just frees him up a little bit more, to be honest. I was listening to Mika Richards on the podcast today, and he was saying the same. He's such a good player. It's just maybe just freeing him up where he feels a little bit more comfortable. But again, there's pressure on him because he's had such a good season with Man City, and he was being compared to John Barnes. John Barnes was brilliant for Liverpool but pulled on an England shirt, and he was never quite the same player, and he's already been labelled with that. So I feel a little bit sorry for him. I think he come good in the tournament, though. I think England will grow into the tournament, and I think he will grow with the side, to be honest. I just hope he leaves him in it.
Well, I was going to say, do you think he needs to change it to get a balance in, Martin? Because you've got Anthony Gordon who could play left side. I was hearing, I think it was yesterday, that Luke Shaw might be able to play 10, 15 minutes depending on how the game's going against Denmark. Seems to me that you think getting him or a left-sided centre, a full back in is really important.
Yeah, I think we really miss an out left back, somebody with a left foot. Gordon's been brilliant for Newcastle. When I've watched him play last season, he's probably had one of his best seasons in the Premier League under Eddie Howe at Newcastle. But he's good on the ball. He can come in off that left side. He can take the defender on. I just think he gives you a slightly different dimension. And he'd be choking at the bit to have a real go. It's whether Gareth would be brave enough to use him in this Denmark game, or maybe use it to the final group game and then throw him in the mix. But I think Gordon will get a look in at some stage and to see what he can do, because I think he can just balance the side out a bit without Shaw. If Shaw's, how much we're going to get out of Shaw this tournament. And listening today, he's not played really like the whole year. He's not played since January time, and it was just fits and starts. So to have our main left back that's not played any football is a little bit of a concern. We've got to hope and pray that there's a left back coming through at one of the clubs somewhere in the Premier League, and an Englishman that can push to play at left back, because boy, we really need one.
Tom, Martin touched on earlier on when he was just summing up the game and picking out performances. Gay of Crystal Palace looked like he'd been playing international football for 10 years. He was flawless, you have to say, especially in that first 45.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I was really hoping that he was going to get the nod over Lewis Dunk. I thought that he was maybe going to go with Lewis Dunk to start the game. So, when the team was announced and I saw that Gay got the nod, I was really pleased. And then even more so, after his performance, I don't think he put a foot wrong. And really chuffed for that. And this, the defence has come in for a bit of stick, hasn't it, leading into the Serbia game? A lot of people have been saying that that's England's weakness. I've been one of them, to be honest with you. The biggest area of concern with the England team, is defence. And I thought they, did a good job in proving a few people wrong in that game against Serbia, because they were absolutely fantastic. A couple of times maybe there was a few loose balls out from the back, a couple of misplaced passes, but other than that, they were solid. I think he looked like he'd been playing alongside John Stones, for ages, considering that was his first time playing in that back line, wasn't it? Those four players. He was, I know Bellingham got man of the match, but I just think given the circumstances, he was a very, very close second in my opinion. Great debut.
I watched just a little snippets again from the England media team, and he was sat with Jared Bowen after the game, and he was loving the feedback he was getting from back home. So that's good to see, and hopefully can build on that. I certainly think that he's a pillar to be building your success on. Martin, I can come back to you actually, because it's a question as a Scotsman looking in. England always seem to have a plethora of talent. There's no doubt about it. You go back to the Sven-Goran Eriksson days. The likes of Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, there was always a conundrum of how do you fit all these guys, blend them and get the best out of them. I feel like England are almost in that situation again when you look at the midfield front. How does Gareth manage that? And is Gareth the man to manage that and get the best out of them and surge them towards a trophy?
You've got to be so strong, haven't you? I remember the time under Eriksson, and really and truly he needed to drop one, maybe two, but definitely one of Lampard or Gerrard at the time. And Scholes was brilliant for Man United, playing in a central role, sort of played in the 8, played in the 10. He was such a good central midfielder, and he always played on the left wing, and it never suited him. We never got the blend right. And you're very right. He's in the same. Well, Southgate's in the same situation now. He's got to get the blend right, and that will mean making big decisions. That might mean dropping a Foden out the side or an Alexander-Arnold. He's going to have to make big decisions and big calls now. There's certain names on that team sheet that will 100% start. Rice will sit in that midfield. I think he's brilliant, but it's how you partner it and balance that side out. And I think a lot of the issue is definitely we were touching upon the left fullback, having that left-footed player in the side. But I just think you're right. He's got to make big decisions. Is he the man to do it? I think he's at that stage now where he's got to be strong, because this is his last shot at it. I don't think he carries on at the end of the tournament, whether we win it or we go out at some stage later in the tournament. I think he will go. So, if I was him, just be brave and have a proper go. Let the shackles off. Let the shackles off. Let the shackle. These players are so good at their clubs, and they're putting an England shirt on it. We don't want to get out of that situation with such a weight on the players, because he seemed to have really, over the last few years, really got a togetherness and lifted the weight of the jersey off a lot of these players. And we would play tournaments. I just think we'll get better as the tournament goes. I really do. I think we'll play into it.
Tom, you were going to come in there.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you're talking about Southgate being brave and, Foden. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, to be honest, especially what you're saying that, it seems like Trippier's good, that left back position is going to be his in terms of, how fit Shaw is and moving forward. So we know that, Foden, if he continues on the left, he's not going to have that, left back overlapping, helping him out. because it's not naturally, where Trippier plays. He's very right-footed as well, isn't he, Trippier? I thought that watching the game, that, yeah, he hasn't got much of a left foot either, has he, to be honest? So, I tell you what, I'm a little bit concerned because I don't think, I hope Southgate proves me wrong, but I just got this worry that, if Foden kind of next game against the Danes, he puts in a similar level of performance. I'm not confident that Southgate has got the courage to say, you know what, I'm going to drop player of the season. It's not working. I'm going to give someone like Gordon the chance. I'm little concerned that he won't do that. I think he'll persevere with Foden. And look, I think he's got to start in the next game. You cannot, off the back of that first game, say, Foden's out, Gordon's in. And I think he will start in the next game against Denmark. But, I think if it's a similar performance, and there's not much threat down that England left, Southgate's got to rethink it, in my opinion, for that next game. And then, hopefully the knockout stages. But I'm not too sure whether he's got the metal, shall we say, to make a big call like that. It's one thing that's always worried me a little bit with Southgate is having that, the ball, shall we say, to make a big call like that, and the backlash that then comes off the back of it.
Martin, do England need to play two sitters against nations like Serbia, Denmark, Slovenia?
No, I don't think they
sacrifice one and go for it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Rice is such an accomplished player now. The step up that he's made by going to Arsenal and playing in the Premier League, you look at his performances throughout the season, and in an England shirt now, he looks so much more comfortable than he did in the last tournament. You could say that for a couple of the players, actually, but certainly Bellingham. But him, I think he's exceptional, and he's more than adequate against the Danes to do it, in my opinion. And like I said a minute ago, just let the shackles off, and you've got some really good flair players. Let them go and have, really influence the game in the sort of like, the final third. Try and get Kane into the game, and Kane drops so deep at times. It didn't quite look like the Harry Kane we saw a couple of years ago. I didn't think the other night. It was a tough game. They marked him really well, though. They did a really good job on him, and I still think that the Danes, when you look at the centre backs that they have, they'll probably relish playing against him because they look to do a similar job. It's just, how can you be different against a Danish side that are probably set up similar to Serbia did?
We'll come on to the games just momentarily, but I thought in terms of movement, it was more like Harry Haaland than Harry Kane. Tom?
Yeah, it was. Harry Kane's just been unbelievable for England, hasn't he? And it was one of the very few off games for him, wasn't it? But he proved his class in that one chance. The cross from Bowen, and great header. He outmuscled the defender, and it was a fantastic save from the goalie, wasn't it? To tip it onto the bar, and that's what you get with Harry Kane. He can just he can disappear sometimes, and not be getting as involved as he would like to, like you said, dropping a bit deeper and picking up the ball. But he just needs one chance, doesn't he? Like I said, very nearly went in that for a brilliant save from the goalkeeper. So, yeah, I'm not too concerned about Harry Kane's performance. He'll come good, I'm sure of it, and he'll start putting the goals away, putting the chances. But yeah, I just pull back a little bit to what you guys were discussing then, and yeah, talking about Bellingham and fitting Foden in. Bellingham obviously is played more advanced, hasn't he, for Real Madrid in this last season, which is why Southgate's now seemed to have picked him as his number 10. But yeah, for me, especially against these, I don't want to say lesser teams, but
you just did.
The likes of Serbia, the likes of Denmark. Why Bellingham perhaps couldn't play alongside Rice in like a bit of a box-to-box role, and you let Foden play in that 10 in the hole, and then you bring on someone like Gordon, because Bellingham, even in the game against Serbia, was dropping very deep at times, wasn't he? Picking the ball off the defence. He was absolutely everywhere. Surely he could play alongside Rice in a more, slightly more defence-minded, sitting a bit deeper and collecting the ball. I don't know. It's Foden. I just think, like Martin said at the start, I think he's got to fit in somewhere. He's so good, but yeah, it's such a difficult one at the moment, isn't it, as to how he fits in, especially if Bellingham's nailed in on that number 10 role.
Just final word on the performance then, Martin. Tom touched on the Harry Kane chance. Comes from Jared Bowen, who most people were quite shocked to see coming onto the pitch, actually, as his first choice sub. But he came on it and he actually did okay.
Yeah, no, he did. He's been brilliant for West Ham the last couple of seasons, and he deserves his place in the squad. I feel a little bit sorry for Grealish. I think Grealish is a good dribbler of the ball, but not played the amount of football that Jared Bowen has done. It's a brilliant cross, though. He's got a good delivery on him, and he got Harry Kane, and he only takes a chance for Harry Kane, and he scored because he's a proper poacher and he's a proper striker. There's no doubt he could still end up with the golden boot, Harry Kane, if he gets the chances given to him, because I think as the tournament goes, we will create them. But I like Bowen. I think he's a really good player that you can use from the bench. I don't think he starts any games, but he's a great option to have from the bench.
Okay, let's move on to Thursday's game, because Denmark got off to a draw against Slovenia. Tom, all the headlines were grabbed by Eriksson, and rightly so. You go back to the last Euros and what happened there, and he pops up with it. It's a great move, actually. Nice touch and a superb finish.
Yeah, it's great to see, isn't it? Obviously, it's such a fantastic story. The last tournament, what happened to him and where he's come from since there. So yeah, it was great to see him get on the score sheet. And like you said, it was a really nicely worked goal, wasn't it? Nice little flick into him and a smart finish into the bottom corner. But yeah, in terms of Denmark, I was a little bit disappointed in them, to be honest with you. I expected a bit more from them. They had some spells in the game where they were in control, but I felt like they didn't threaten as much as I thought they were going to. And obviously, they ended up drawing the game. So yeah, as an England fan, it's obviously good to see. I still think they're capable of putting in a better performance than they did. And they've got some great players in that team. But after watching it, I wasn't sat there thinking, I'm really worried about coming up against them on Thursday. I think if we can play to the best of our ability, we've got more than enough to pick up 3 points.
Martin, you look back to the last Euros, England had to go to extra time to beat Denmark. I would say that much changed either side, really, from that point on. Maybe England have gathered more caps. Do you think it's going to be a tricky one to navigate? Because I think out of all the groups that I've watched so far, this group seems to be, for want of a word, the least entertaining we've seen. It's quite a stuffy group in terms of play.
Yeah, no, they'll have a low block, and I think against an England side, I think that they do very similar to what Serbia did. I still think they got some threats, big centre backs as well, strong centre backs. I still think he need options off the bench to beat them. Watkins, are we going to see anything of him? Ivan Toney, pacey players that can go in behind at times. You've got to be looking at him. Saka was really good first half on the weekend. We really need him to be at his best in this game against Denmark, and really go at the fullbacks and try and get him on the ball as much as we can. But I think it'd be a cagey game. I think they'd be tough to beat. I think it'd be very similar to what we've seen before. I really do. I think you're right on that. I really do.
Okay, then let's just quickly a quick prediction for Thursday night. Tom, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I agree with mine. I think it's going to be another tough game, and the press afterwards, I don't think it's going to be a 4-0 fraction that they seem to be expecting. It's going to be another tough match. Denmark will make it difficult, but I've got confidence that we'll get another 3 points. I'm going to go for 2-0 this time. I think we could have easily won 2-0 in the last game, if it wasn't for that fantastic save from the goalie. So yeah, I'm confident. 2-0 win. I'm going to go for.
Martin, just share his confidence.
Yeah, no, I'm going to back Tom. I think England win it. I think they win it 2-0. I think clean sheet again for Pickford. I haven't really spoken about Pickford. I'm a massive fan of, obviously, the Goalkeepers Union, working with a professional goalkeeper in Asmir Begovic. So we're always talking about goalkeepers, and he had spent a lot of time with Jordan, and I think Jordan's tournament goalkeeper. I think when he gets into tournaments, he really comes alive, and his distribution the other night was brilliant. Clean sheet for Jordan. Harry Kane gets himself off the score sheet for me. And I'm going to have Bellingham with another one as well, second in the tournament for Bellingham, and that'll just release a little bit of pressure going into that final game against Ukraine.
I saw a tweet earlier, somebody putting out that Jordan Pickford was in the top 2 greatest England goalkeepers of all time, and he wasn't number 2. That's probably a podcast on its own, that one. Martin, it would be remiss in me to get you on this podcast and not talk to you from a Southampton point of view. Shea Adams on Friday night. I don't know if you saw the game, but
I did.
He had a real tough shift up there. We spoke about him last night, saying that he's out of contract. Will he be staying? Will he be going? How do you see his tournament panning out? Do you think Steve Clarke will stick with him tomorrow night against the Swiss?
I'm not convinced he will stick with him. No, he's really suffered with injury now for a good few months, Adams. He's had calf problems. I think he's bulked out a lot. I don't know if you've noticed. He's got really muscly. His legs are really big, really strong. He's picked up a lot of muscular injuries throughout the championship season with Southampton. I'll tell you what, he was brilliant for Southampton. When he was at it, he was really, really good. He's a good foil. Doesn't score loads of goals. I know that. But I think as a player, his passing's good. I think international football is obviously that bigger step to go at. He's not anywhere near as fit as he needs to be, along with Stuart Armstrong. Stuart Armstrong's been out since end of April. Very good player, Stuart Armstrong, by the way. But Shea, I wish he'd sorted his situation out about decided what he was going to do a while ago, long before he got into this tournament, because it's dragged for pretty much 2 seasons now. Make a decision, decide what you're going to do, and knuckle down. And you could have really gone into the Euros and focused on it. But he still have an agent in his ear. They'll still be talking to clubs, and he doesn't know where he's going to play his football next season, which is, I just find it a bit bizarre. I think it's the last thing you want going into a tournament, really.
I was just going to say, what's the latest with Stuart Armstrong as well? Because he's out of contract, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out of contract.
You want at West Brom? I could just tell that you're leaning down.
I would absolutely love him at West Brom. I've been a fan of his since. Who was he at before Celtic, Rob?
Celtic, Celtic.
Yeah, before Celtic, he was at
Dundee United.
Dundee, that was it. I remember him coming from Dundee to Celtic, and I've been a fan of his since his days at Celtic. Fantastic player. And before he went to Southampton, funnily enough, when Darren Moore was our manager, we made a bid for him, and I was really hoping it materialised. Obviously, didn't happen. Went to Southampton, and I think he's a fantastic player. And I did a post on my page, some free agents that are out there that we should be making moves for. And I was saying, well, if he doesn't commit to Southampton, he's one we definitely need to make a move for. I know he's getting on a little bit, but classic player.
Class act.
Yeah,
it'd be a wonderful sign for whoever picks him up, but he won't wear a Southampton shirt next season. They've confirmed that he's been released. He's not going to sign another contract with us. I think Fulham are interested. Talk of him potentially going back to Scotland as well. But we have a bit of a Scotland connection going on, don't we? Because we have Ryan Fraser, or we've had the privilege of Ryan. Yeah, Russell Martin, who's done a brilliant job. Ryan Fraser. Massive shout out to him, by the way, because he's been absolutely brilliant in a Southampton shirt. I thought he might have pushed for the Scotland squad. He gave everything for Southampton, and certainly in the playoff final, ended up playing left back. To wear the shirt meant the world to him. He proper put some shifts in this season. He's playing himself for a contract, but nice Scottish connection. But Stuart Armstrong, what a gem of a player, by the way.
I did actually tweet you when Scotland were making the late call-ups. Lewis Morgan got in. I thought, was Ryan Fraser maybe harshly done by that? Because I know you'd been tweeting throughout the season about how good he had been. So, Okay then, lads. We'll leave it there. Thanks very much. A great shift. And if you've been listening and watching, like and subscribe as always. We are back on Thursday night to do a Scotland review of Matchday 2 and then back Friday for England Matchday 2. But thanks for your time and we'll see you again next time. Cheers.